trained a person and you don't go back to see how she or he is moving on with whatever you trained. You need to listen to him or her to tell you a story about the success and all that. You need to know the problems she or he is encountering when carrying out that. For example, when you go to the rural areas, the people have learned, you've trained maybe 30 people or 25 people, they've learned, they have the skills, but when you ask them to train many others, they say, I know how to train, I can do it, just as you see mine and that one, but it is hard to travel to places which are far. Could you provide us with bicycles or motorbicycles, and you can't afford. But we feel that these people would be encouraged further by their leaders. Because our projects normally have a limited time. When you get money for 3 years or 4 years, that's the end of it. And you do all the nice work, the good work, you report back to the districts, to the sub-counties, you know, and then you have to leave. So I think that is a problem we now feel. It is terrible because for 40 years, I think we should have covered the whole country with energy saving stoves, whether local and made or these cleaner stoves as my friend has mentioned, but that is the problem where we are. Next, I think...
Maybe Mrs. Chwanka in a minute or two?
In a minute or two.
Yes.
I think the technologies, another lesson is that when you go to people with new technologies, it takes a lot of time to change the mindset, people's mindset. I think you are aware of that. But you need to be patient, you need to work very hard, you need to use a lot of techniques to see that this person, you pull him or her towards what you want him or her to achieve. But having done this still, I think NGOs working within the districts of Uganda and with the local leaders, I think the gap between the NGOs created between the NGOs and the local government is still big. We have to fight that. Because I'm seriously not happy when we train and we have told you everything and you have committed yourself. Like they make commitments, very good commitments. We shall mobilize, we shall follow, we shall get involved, we shall put in the plan. And we say, enough. You know, you have seen the national plans, they put them that we shall enforce the policies, and you say, now, God has done everything. Then you leave. Oh my God, going back, these people are busy and therefore I don't know, what they forget, and the things stop.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chwanka. You've mentioned something that is very crucial, which is modernizing cooking at institution level, while you've also mentioned the work you do in the schools, quite similar to what Drama Patrick mentioned on evaluating schools, or even the environmental analysis and evaluation conducted for institutions at setup level. I already see points of synergy and engagement between the different focal persons that are here with Jim, because this is the very low-hanging fruit. You could share information on knowledge exchange, but most pertinently, look into why O&M is not more effectively implemented, which is operation and maintenance of these technologies. From my experience, I know this is very much linked to access to finance at the local government level, but also for the owners of these technologies. And this is where I come to you, Mr. Maka, from the Uganda Energy Credit Capitalization Company, UECCC. We've seen different financing mechanisms that bridge access to finance at local level, at national level, for these clean cooking technologies. This is something you have experience in. The room would be interested to learn what have been the key lessons learned using these different financing institutions. Maybe in the shortest time possible, you could also hit on what types of financing mechanisms you are using to engage or to promote the access to clean cooking in Uganda.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jackie, the moderator, and my colleagues. Also, thank you very much, the audience. Specific to this question, I will begin by having a preamble to this. That in terms of financing, there are many different ways in which clean cooking may be financed. There are already experiences that we have seen. Also, we have lots of literature, both globally and in the country. But just to summarize, I summarize them into two broad means of financing. One is the input-based financing. And what do we mean by that? It is upfront financing, especially to the producers of these technologies. For example, Jeep, to be able to manufacture these technologies and distribute them across the population. And then the other one is the output-based. In the output-based is where you have a situation that products, specific products, pre-agreed on products, are actually distributed and sold to the end users. And then based on what they have distributed, they get funded. The suppliers get funded. And then the third one is what I call hybrid. It can be both approach. You have both input financing and then output-based financing, where you have the two all occurring together. Now, specifically, I will narrow my discussion to the output-based financing approach, which is the results, what we are now calling the results-based financing. It has many names. Output-based financing can also substitute in for results-based financing, but the principle is the same, that the financing comes after the clean cooking technologies have been distributed or have reached the end user. That is the biggest difference between the two. Now, in terms of experience overall, or lesson learned, based on the different mechanisms of financing, it is seen that in terms of outputs, realizing outputs, once output-based financing is used, there is usually a tendency of achieving more outputs, as opposed when it is input-based. So with that, it means that if we want to have financing for clean cooking solutions, which can to give us the impacts that we want, especially in a short time or something like that, it is better to use the output-based approach. Why? It is because a lot of things can be controlled in that kind of financing. First and foremost, you predetermine those things my colleagues were talking about, the standards of the products you want to sell. You can also predetermine the price at which the end user should get, should. In that way, that is how, at the end of it all, it is easier to get these outputs a little bit more faster in terms of the quantity and the time taken. So in terms of financing generally, this is the experience that we have and we see, that using output-based form of financing achieves more results and impacts as opposed to the input-based financing. So the moderator is already, it's okay. So that is the major one. But also in this, there are some other lessons that have been learned along the way, not skewed to the financing bit only, but also in terms of the uptake from the communities vis-a-vis this financing. One general one is, it is true that people are aware and now demand for these technologies. But reality dawns that much as they demand for them, affordability is still the problem. So they can hardly finance or acquire these technologies. And then related to that, most of these output-based financing mechanisms would normally zero around the technology, the devices. But very little is looked at in terms of the fuels that are required over time. The purchase of the devices or the technologies is a one-off thing, but that is not enough. Once you have your LPG kit, you must think about how you will fuel this LPG stove. So that means that sustained, that ability to be able to get the fuel that you need is a key thing. And related to that, it is even documented that while globally, people spend about 10% of their income on energy for cooking and maybe lighting, but 80% of it all is basically about the fuel. So that is something that is worth putting onto the radar.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mwaka from UECCC. Quite difficult for me to moderate this panel because they have a very, I can't stress this enough, very, very heavy wealth of knowledge in the renewable energy sector, in the policy sector, as well as the energy sector in general, because we have more than 40 years. If you sum up the experience on this panel alone, we could be in over a century. Yes? So I have a century-old panel. So quite difficult to, get only small bits of information and knowledge from them. And this is where I implore everyone in the room, please corner them. And I said the word corner meaningfully. Please corner them to explain more, to share more about the experiences in this sector. And on this note, I want to welcome some questions from the audience to the panel. Please state your name and who you'd like to address the question to. But also let us be mindful of the time. I know the room, if we sum the experience of the room, we could be in, 1,000 years? Yeah, we could be in 1,000 years. So we all have a broad wealth of knowledge and experience. So let's keep our questions very short and precise. Thank you. Yes, I'll ask JB to help me move the mic.
Thank you so much. I am Milton once again, focal point person from Zombi. And my question goes directly to CEO, Joint Energy and Environment Projects. I was a little bit so much deeply inside me when you were pointing out the achievement of GIP 40 years down the road. You have achieved 60 to 80%. And two, you mentioned something to do with the issue of sustainability. That once you have introduced an intervention, technological intervention, especially on energy, and that the communities have adopted it, but at the end of the day, or at the end of the project, the technology is abandoned. Now, we have been wasting a lot of financial resources on technological adoption vis-a-vis sustainability. Now, as GIP, 40 years down the road, We are in 2024. What strategic alternative plans that JIP can come up with in the next 5 years or in the next, the NDP 4? Thank you so much.
Can we take 3 questions at once? Again, being mindful of the time.
Thank you. My name is Richard. I'm a ground assault. I am happy with Madam Kiwanuka, but just like I said that they introduce a technology, then after 4 or 5 years, it is out in place. I think it's now us in this house to take it up as a policy nature, that every program design, if it has to go through the appraisal process of approval, there must be a strategic action to make sure that the sustainability of that project is in course. Then the other one is I think that's Mr. Agoba. Mr. Agoba is talking about input financing and then output financing. Maybe I've not understood you well. For me, when I talk about input financing, you're actually basically financing the raw material to produce what? The technology. And that's where I think most people are having what? A problem. So when you talk about output financing, you are actually kind of providing a market for what? For a packaged what? Product. I think rationally, it takes little resources if you do input financing than what? Than output financing. Because output financing, you may not be the overall provided market for all the final products of these technologies. Maybe I've not understood, but that's what the problem is.
All right, thank you. Let's take a final question from the gentleman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Paul Okello of Bosco Pound, the district plan of Bade. This question goes to Mr. Waka. How can the local community come into play along the output-based financing?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take those and then do another round. So we start Mrs. Chwanka, very briefly for your first question, and then Mr. Waka.
Thank you very much, our friend from Zombo. We're really happy that you appreciate. And those problems the challenges we are now facing, as you mentioned, you really understand them well. So what we think as JIP and maybe other NGOs working with our districts in Uganda, we need to work very, very closely with these local leaders, right from top the district down to the sub-county leaders. We need to take the projects at our heart. We need to find solutions together, and we need that, as we mentioned here, we need to see that the local leaders take on these projects and they keep in touch with us. If there's anything slightly a problem, invite us or tell us, and we'll solve together. But we also want to hear that they are handling, they are taking it on, they are working with people, they are seeing what is going on, they want to achieve, to see that the whole district is benefiting from the project. So, in the next 5 years, we are going to see that we are together, we work together, definitely. Although we don't know where to report to you people when you refuse to work with us, we wouldn't know where to report.
I think I know where you can report them.
Okay. Number 2, Soroti. Oh, you are wonderful. Thank you so much. He has not asked me, he has advised, he has already found a solution. Not so, if you had him, we thank you so much. And we shall talk after here. Thank you so much.
All right. Moving on to 2 questions to Mr. Mwaka in about 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. What is this input-based vis-a-vis output-based? I think I will give it more clarity. In terms of financing, for whatever sector. There is the traditional way whereby you get an amount of funds allocated to you that you receive, and then you use these funds to be able to produce certain outputs. I will bring it down maybe to producing improved cooking, improved cook stoves. You get the money, then you use the money to manufacture the cook stoves. But in output-based, it's different. It's the other way around. First manufacture, and then you get funded based on how many you have manufactured. So that is the slight difference between our opinion, mine and yours. So that is what I was saying. And with that, we have seen that if, for example, you have Jeep, and you tell Jeep that you go manufacture cook stoves for Ugandans. Instead of giving Jeep maybe 1 billion to go and do the work, we say Jeep, first manufacture. That is that is another subject for another discussion.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
So that is the difference. I hope it is now clear. Now the second one, how does the community come into play in this output-based financing? One, the community comes into play in a way of being actually the consumers of these products. I'm actually narrowing it down to maybe clean cooking technologies. In the output-based approach, the community members are actually the consumers of these cook stoves, for example. Okay? So the manufacturer, like Jeep manufacturers, now in output-based, the community members are the ones who will be using the what? The cook stoves after buying them. So that's one way. But also quickly, under the project, which is called the Electricity Access Scale-Up Project, we have this RPF program. And what is happening is, through the output-based mechanism, we are going to provide end-user subsidies to all Ugandans, provided they have a national ID. Now, they will buy these products at a subsidized price. Okay? And then secondly, on the same project also, we want the community members to participate, support them to be able to also manufacture some of these technologies, depending on what is available in the locality. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Is it a burning question?
Yes. 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 What questions are burning?
I think, but you, Planner Zongo has already had his chance. You'll come last if we have a minute to spare. Yes. Now I'm being a dictator with my time.
Thank you, Madam. At least the dictatorship is not like the one of the other former government.
Those are your words. Disclaimer.
Okay, thank you, sorry for that. I have heard from Madam Ruth Kiwanuka, the Joint Energy and Environment Project. I heard that you worked in 4 regions, including Northern Uganda. Is it not so, Madam? Northern Uganda. I am from Northern Uganda. Northern Uganda. I'm called Bongomil Richard, District Planner Agago. And Agago is one of those districts in Northern Uganda, Agago District, greatly affected by the environment issues. The charcoal you see, people are using in Kampala here, come through the way from Agago up to Kampala, and they are feeding commissioners around here. But I've not seen this thing called Jeep in Agago. Is it located where exactly, which district in Northern Uganda? Can you please insert Agago also in the list of the district that you will be operating or implementing Jeep? because it looks as if it is a very good project for us, both for energy and even environment. Not only in Agago district, Madam Ruth.
Yes.
If you go to Nuaya district,
Nowhere.
Nuaya district, you just take your time. I know you are not there in Agago or in northern Uganda. Take your time and go and see this. Trees are being cut every day, every day. So when you need such kind of intervention, Madam, if you could put more districts in northern Uganda in your project, we will give you a very big cup when you come to Agago district. Thank you.
All right. We've already seen that relationship happening during our next tea break. Mrs. Chwanka, please note Mr. Richard from Agago and have an in-depth discussion on how you reach Agago and Nyoya district.
Really, we shall see. Those are the people who, not you, Richard, but they are the pain. The leaders who forget all about the projects. But now we shall talk, as I said, the plan for the next 5 years.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm called Avakonola from Maracha district. Yes, mine goes to Agoba. Yeah, you talked about the last consumers. That is a community on ground with whom we work. And you had emphasized on the issue of affordability. I also wanted to bring in the issue of protection of these communities when they're using these cook stoves. Most times, companies and organizations come up with these very nice interventions, the cook stoves. And the communities, they are convinced, they buy them, sometimes at a high cost, but eventually, these things fail to work. The sustainability is not there. How are these communities protected? Who is in charge? Where they can be directed that once you have a fake material or counterfeit thing, you report to this, because we find it difficult also to protect them. Thank you.
One more question.
Here.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Thank you. Backbenchers were not being seen. My name is Opio Boniface, planner for Nebi District. The first question goes to Madam Ruth. She talked about failed sustainability of the projects that have been implementing over the years. From your studies, what are the reasons for the failed sustainability of these projects? And to all the panelists, why do you think it's time to move to clean cooking? And yet, we've had in the morning even officers who are here who are capable, I think, of adopting clean cooking, still saying they're looking for charcoal and firewood. Why do you think our poor community should now begin to move to clean cooking? Thank you.
All right. JP, let's take one more question. Still dictating from the gentleman here.
Thank you so much. My name is Chirunda Ibrahim Mwanguzi, a graduate engineer. CEO Ruth Chiwanuka mentioned that one of the strategies that are for the next 5 years is to have some organizations coming down with a lot of enthusiasm over, can I call it, a lot of love to bring projects down to the local people. But then the mentality that we have, or that we're not going to talk about as local leaders, is the love for money. How are we going to engulf this? Because they're going to bring a project and someone will be like, how am I benefiting? How are we going to tackle this? Thank you.
All right. Final question from Zombo. If you can read in one sentence.
Thank you. Muyanja, this time you're not going to survive. Policy directions. These policies are developed at the national level. And for us, we are down there. Some of these policies do do not favor us, the technocrats. There is always interlock between the technocrats and the politicians. You are implementing this particular law and the policy, but the politicians come and say, no, 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 don't disturb my voters. Now, could you develop the policies that harmonize the two parties? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we start with Mrs. Chuanka in 3 minutes.
My friend from Nebi. Mr. Opio, thank you very much. How are we going to solve the problems? Was that a question? Yes. I mentioned earlier that we need to work very, very closely. I want a word better than closely. I don't know whether it is there. Very, very closely with our local leaders. When the projects are powered into your districts, welcome them, work with the people who have come with the projects, support them, encourage them, and try to encourage the communities to take on the projects. Because, Mr. Nebi, because when we come as NGOs like GIB, we are only supplementing. Because when you go to Nebi district, they are very, very well-educated environmentalist, environmental officer, natural resources, forest staff, fisheries, CDO, community development, district community development officer, and many others. And their work is within the district, in the communities where we are also coming. But when we come, then they fold their hands. Now they have come, they are going to do the work. No, for us we are just coming to help a bit and maybe bring some new technologies and new ideas. Then you continue because it is already your work. So I'm emphasizing working together. And when we leave, continue with the projects. In fact, we are right now here in Nebi, and I'm going to give you this. It's a report from Nebi, a wonderful one. You see, oh, even what I've not mentioned, it is in here.
All right.
Yes. Then he was engineer. Engineer. Are you engineer? Ibrahim. Yes. Love for money. That is now killing everything. We struggle to look for money. In fact, NGOs, it is a very difficult area to work in. Unfortunately, we are named in non-government organizations, and that created a gap between government and NGOs. We should change that name. Yes, it confuses the government. Now those people have money. Those people, we don't have. It is so hard. We have to explain. We have to talk. I have the partners. They are really fed up with the way we talk. Yeah, the communities are so poor. Transport. The roads are so bad. We need a car. So many things at all. Yeah. Now we give you this, and you have to account for this. You are going to work with the district, which district in Nebi, which is Soroti, which district in Nakasong, whatever. Yes, we get the money. And each penny, coin, or whatever, is allocated to something. But this one you mentioned, love for money. When we reach those places, we tell them exactly what we have. And when you say let's work together, then they whisper. Should I say? You say it. You can't tell a donor that you are going to facilitate the district leader. Because they know he's a very big person in the country who is highly and well paid. Yes. And if the districts don't budget well for environmental issues, that's their fault. One district in Kasese, Kasese Island, they said, oh, we have realized we have not always taken much care when you are budgeting for environment. But now we know it is so necessary. We are going to do it. Did it then? Maybe they didn't tell us the budget was increased, but they were saying, no money, no money. Then, what do we do? Love for money, I think we should really engineer. I think you should advise. What do we do with love for money? It is killing everything. And we are tired.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Chuanka. Food for thought as we go into our break tea. Later in the evening, what do we do with this? For me, I love money, so I don't think yes. I'm being honest. Someone told me I need to be more honest in life to go further, so I'm being honest, people. I do love money. All right. In 1 or 2 minutes, Mr. Drama.
Yes, thank you so much. I think for me, I have 3 issues to actually provide an opinion on what people are talking about. One is, at policy level, we should get serious. That we should establish compliance standards for what we are calling clean cooking or clean cooking technologies. Because you see, like even if we finance a person to produce cookstoves, but if there's nobody testing this thing at regional level to confirm whether this stove really meets what we call clean cooking aspects. So now, that means we must define these clean cooking compliance standards and establish a structure for enforcing it. Number 2, my question to my aspect around my colleague who is also on the panel here is, you have defined the financing mechanisms as input, as output. But what has not come very clear, which must also come clear to address some of these issues, is how do how do I access? What processes do I go through to access any of this financing? For me, I don't want to know the definition. But what is important is how do I access any of them? What process do I go through? What are those conditions, terms and conditions? They may be very what? Stringent and even repulsive, that it is very selfish, that it won't be helpful. We shall just be hearing the name AA financing, what. But people will not touch it, they will not feel it, and they will not visualize. Lastly, we have to strengthen coordination. Coordination with partners, including the ministry. By the way, practically we have some gap between even the local governments and the ministry. Yes. The ministry has not decentralized its system to the local governments. Right now, they have lifted recruitment ban. We expect even the ministries will provide structure, energy structure for recruiting energy personnel at the local government to build our capacity so that we effectively support categories like cheap. Yeah? Because we cannot have a forest officer there, environment officer there, but there must be a specialist in energy to coordinate all this. And also, this coordination, we need also our capacity to be built along this coordination.
Right.
We may be talking, but yes, we have these glittering faces, but their competencies are different from the energy competencies.
Right.
Therefore, capacities must be ensured through this coordination. We expect either budget support or project support from partners, and this will be well coordinated. I think this will address these many issues that JIP is raising, the other one is raising, and we will be in a pair. Because just last week JIP is saying we are not supporting. But you find the interesting behavior of the partners is that they also don't want to be known about. I leave that parable. They also don't want to be known about.
All right. And I know where we are going to report each other. All right, thank you very much. You've just said all the guilt is not gold. I would also want to put a question to the entire audience. Hatim mentioned the Energy Policy 2023 as district planners, as district energy forecasters. Have we taken our time to go through these policies? Have we taken our time to look at the guidelines? There is the cooking guideline, there is the biodigester guideline. There are so many of these policies and guidelines. Have we taken the time to go through them, to read them, to challenge, keyword here being to challenge them so that they work for the communities that we engage with? This is food for thought to everyone or to the audience in the room. While yes, we are calling for policy reforms, for policies that work, calling for policy, I should say sustainable policy implementation, what have we done to challenge the policies as they stand, but also to contribute towards these policies? On that note, Mr. Hatim, in 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I think, let me just begin with Benjamin from Agago. He noted about that he's not seeing Jeep being in the area. But Agago is one of the areas where we have had some projects. I know we have just had a project called Prorina, Project for Restoration of Livelihood in northern Uganda. And there's a number of districts within the northern Uganda. And when you look at that project, it has been supporting things like the roads, markets, and so on. But it's a project which recognized the issue of environment within the area and had a component dedicated on environment and also energy. And we did a lot of work within some of the institutions. And we are glad that we are coordinating very well with the people at the district level. But then also on the same note, just to note that we have now a number of projects in the energy that are moving on. My colleague hinted about the Energy Access Scale-Up project. It's doing a lot to extend services of energy at the household, but also at the institutional level, issues to do with the cooking and so on. It's one project that we can really support most of the institutions. Then the next one is Mr. Opio from NEBI. He posed something that, why clean cooking? When I want us to look at the clean cooking in a slightly bigger perspective, looking at the resource right now that we are using. We are looking at you are cooking clean if you're also using the right technology. We may not run away from the biomass, but we need to look at how can we sustainably use our biomass. When you look at when you look at mainly the schools, when you look at a school, if they need firewood, they will just come and clear forest. If you look at shifting and then we do maybe the improved cook stove, you find that you've cut already about 60% of your energy consumption. So when we say clean cooking, we're also still looking at using biomass but in an efficient way. And then we look at using these alternatives to the wood biomass. For example, institutions or households where like we have a feedstock such as the animal waste, we are looking at how can we do the issues like biogas and so on. Then also let me also briefly touch on the issue of how can we have the right standards. At times we develop standards and at times they get complicated for us to get them to the actual technicians. But at times what we do, we've done some guidelines, we've done some manuals, and these manuals are speaking into the standard that we have, are speaking into what has been researched, and then we move down and we try to train some of the artisans. We do some of the demonstration to set at least they mimic something or do something better, which is efficient and can be able to provide very good benefits to the users.
Sure.
Let me also just respond to this because someone told me that I should not survive this unless it's
right.
Milton.
In a minute.
Yes. Milton, when you look at, when we are developing a policy should speak to a problem. And in the issue of the development of the policies are done in a very consultative way, looking at where do we have a problem and how can we address it together. And when you look at most of our policy objectives or the policy actions that we are looking at, they are really speaking to the needs
of the people on the ground. And I think this is one area where we have not faced a lot of resistance. So in this we've been having a lot of consultations. We are not just sitting there and then we do this, but we do a lot of work doing the consultation at the district level, even at the grassroots level, to get to know what we need to do. Even within these forums like this, we pick out actions that we need to move on with, and this informs some of the things that we have in our policies. Maybe just a last one, let me speak to something to do with the decentralization.
In half a minute.
In half a minute. When you look at our energy policy of 2007, it recognized the need for us to have structures at the district level. And that's why time then, we began with some pilots within, I think, 7 districts. We moved to 12, and now right now we are 22, and we're looking forward to move around 63. But at times, we all know that we are pulling from the same fund that is sometimes constrained. That's why we look forward. How can we work with the existing structures? If you have the natural resources, how can you work with them? So these activities that you would have at the center, you try to implement them together with them at the district level. So that's how we are looking at the issues with the decentralization. And that's why we have some of this for us to share what has been done in those districts to be able to replicate it in also other districts. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hatim. Mr. Mwaka, as our last speaker, let me see if you can pass the time test.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to add one thing on why clean cooking now. I am a very interested party in clean cooking because of my background of being a public health specialist. One of the common health problems that we see are actually respiratory diseases, respiratory tract diseases. And these ones are contributed to by the pollutants that we have in the general environment, but most importantly, at the household level, we have got pollutants as a result of cooking. So as a way of addressing that public health problem, clean cooking comes central. Now, the other thing is about protection. What are we doing to protect the community? I will approach it from this way. One, by the way, Uganda Energy Credit Capitalization Company is actually government of Uganda company. Okay? Similar to what my elder sister there was saying. When we say company, sometimes it is synonymous with something non-government. But this time we are government. We are not non-government. Now, specific to protection, one, my colleague has already spoken about the policies, the guidelines, the standards, and all those ones are already in place. We also have, as arm of government, the enforcers of standards, for example, and that's where we bring in bodies like the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. They are mandated and they are doing a very good job to ensure that our people are protected. Specific to this project, Electricity Asset Scale-Up Project, Government of Uganda is further emphasizing on how to protect the consumers. One, by ensuring that all the products that will be sold or distributed under this project, ensuring that they conform to the standards required, they are duly tested, and we have a mechanism to check that those products will conform to the standards in a way of protecting the end users. What is happening is we are partnering with other private sector companies to distribute these products, clean cooking products and others, and there is a criteria that we are using for selecting them, one of them being the standards that are required, and also after sales service for at least 2 years.
All right. One final comment.
I think that is all.
Thank you.
No, there was a last one. We have
Can
talked.
we take this to the tea break?
Okay,
All
fine,
right.
fine.
Thank you very much. I was trying to see if you passed the time test. The results are still pending. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of our panel discussion. Very interesting discussions here. Unfortunately, I said we have over a century of experience on this panel. We cannot discuss all these issues here. However, please take the contacts, take the names, take the email addresses, the phone numbers of all panelists, of everyone that you want to talk to in the room. This is the opportunity to network, to learn more, to share, to pick skills, pick leaves from one another. A round of applause for our panel, please. Thank you very much. Asking JB to please help me with this. And we take a picture with the panel, yes? And after that, please, I've already seen some very proactive, very digital members in the room. They're already using the Menti to give feedback on the key lessons and takeaways in the room. Please keep this feedback coming in. This is something we are going to aggregate together and share with you. So it's the time to pull out your mobile phones and put in your feedback. If you still need the Menti code, it is right there on the board, and it's also at the very top of the slide. Thanks, IT in the room. At the very top of the slide, there is that Menti code, just in case you are logged out. Please put in all your feedback. We have only 3 questions as feedback to the whole day session or to the Sub-Regional Energy Forum 2024. And this is question number 1, which says, what are the key lessons and takeaways from this particular forum? Yes. So let's see how many answers we could get. Already 9. I'm sure we can do better than 9, right? Yeah. And today we've been learning how to get into these digital tools, and most importantly, data collection. Yes? All right. So as that is going on, I'd like to give a token of appreciation to our panel as the camera person gets ready. All right. Yes, the camera person is there. We take our picture now. And after I call on our project coordinator from the pre-project, GIZ Uganda, to give us a final word of appreciation and thanks.
In the cool.
I see.
Thank you very much. That is a final hand clap for the panel. Thank you very much. All right. As we come to the close of our forum, I'd like to invite Mera Birungi to give us a word of appreciation and also move on to the next question in the meeting.
I think it is a good evening now. Oh, it's still good afternoon. It's still afternoon, not yet evening. I was moving ahead of the time. Already, you talked about the tea. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon to you all. My name is Mera Birungi, a project manager for the promotion of renewable energy and energy efficiency program at GIZ. I missed the start of the forum because I had to be in another meeting, but I'm so glad I came in at the peak of the discussions. Yeah, so I've enjoyed different, deliberate discussions, and I think key topics for me, takeaways, gender, like let's continue the discussion, and I think the team will also be reaching out on this topic. Then sustainability, as GI said, this is one of our key areas that we have to incorporate in all our programs. So sustainability is really key, and this is our takeaway, and we'll continue to see how to implement it in all our different programs. And then finally, the planning process. I was informed about the discussions on the NDP4, the DD, whatever, those different names that I'm not so conversant with. Yeah, but let's continue the interactions and also the different questions from the team, from my team to also the different districts. So my simple task is to thank all of you. I think I clap to the participants. Thank you so much for traveling all the way. It was a tiresome journey, I know, with everything happening at Karuma. So thank you so much for being part of this. Without you, we would not have an audience. So we are so happy to be with you today. And of course, next I'll go to my team, yeah, led by Israel and the entire team. The people, some people at the back, Caroline, all the GIZ staff. Thank you so much for putting all this together. There's been a lot of work in the background, in the scenes. So thank you so much for putting all this together. We had an excellent moderator, Jackie, guys. I think everyone has done an excellent job. Thank you so much for taking us through. Yeah, and I would like, we are still on. There is still, we hope you will participate also tomorrow. So this is not goodbye. We're going to meet also around, and even the sessions are still going on in the rec. So kindly make sure you head into the next sessions after the tea. But please feel free to continue the participation and enjoy. Have a good afternoon and evening. Thank you so much. And I hope we can have a group picture. I think they are trying to set it up.
All right, so 2 things left for me to do before I finally go for a very huge cup of coffee. One is to see that all the results are here. So what can be done better for the next 2025 sub-regional forum? Yes, Mara, we shall be here. All right, so hopefully to see everyone and many more next year. So what can be done better next year to organize this event in a much more effective way? And last piece of communication is that from this room we go to the main plenary room for the official opening of the Renewable Energy Conference 2024. Yes? So from here we go to Caroline, do you know where? Renzori. So Renzori is on the ground floor. So when you get to the elevators, press G and then into the corridor on your right. That is where the main plenary is and where we are having official opening remarks for the Renewable Energy Conference 2024. All right, I think my job here is done. I want to thank everyone. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being active. The room has been full at all times, so I'm very happy with that. And thanks for being active listeners. And next year, I'm sure we are going to have more learnings, more in-depth sharing, and again, thanks for the PRIP team for organizing this, and see you all in the main plenary. But before we leave the room, can I have everyone at the front so that we take one group picture? Next year, that picture will be our starting point, right? All right, I'm already here and ready for the picture. Next to me is Mr. Babito.